Hello and welcome to Prairie Pulse. I'm John Harris. Coming up later on the show, we'll profile David Itkin, a candidate for the Fargo-Moorhead Symphony Orchestra conductor search. But first, our Matt O'Lean interviews Dr. Steve Benson with the UND Petroleum Engineering Department.
Welcome to Prairie Pulse. I'm Matt O'Lean. My guest today is the chair of the UND Petroleum Engineering Department, Dr. Steve Benson from Grand Forks. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Matt.
Dr. Benson, just start off with telling folks a little bit about your background, where you're from originally, and how you ended up at UND Petroleum Engineering.
Well, I grew up in Minnesota. I grew up in a small town called Twin Valley. I got my, then I went to Moorhead State, got an undergraduate degree in chemistry, and then I went to work for the Department of Energy in Grand Forks. And I worked there for a few years in the area of energy, coal, and other energy resources. Then I went to Penn State and I went into a program called Fuel Science. And that Fuel Science studies petroleum and coal and all the different types of energy resources and how to utilize those more efficiently and extract the resource, and then all the way through to refining. And I got my doctorate there at Penn State.
Now let's talk about the petroleum engineering degree. Fairly new department, correct, by department age standards, an offshoot of the engineering School of Engineering and Mines. Tell us about what the program offers and how it got started.
Okay. Well, the program actually we began allowing students to go for a degree in August of 2010. Prior to that, there were conversations with industry in North Dakota because of the increased demand for petroleum engineers, both locally, nationally, as well as internationally. There's a need for more petroleum engineers. And then also we want to have local talent, because we want people that love this area, from North Dakota and the upper Midwest, to have the opportunity to get their degree there. So in probably 2006 to 2008, we developed proposals to the State Board of Higher Education to request the program. And we got the program granted in 2010, and we initiated the program. So in 2010, in the fall of 2010, we had 7 students that began the program.
How many do you have now?
Well, this fall we had 103 students that are in the program, and now we're expecting we haven't made the count this semester yet, but we're anticipating 150, somewhere in that neighborhood.
And I assume this is the time to do a program like this. I mean, it is going great guns in the western part of the state, and obviously that had a factor in the Board of Higher Ed saying, let's go ahead with this. Yeah.
What's happening in North Dakota as well as elsewhere has really had an impact on the petroleum engineers that are out there. There's a significant demand, and we're trying to meet that demand. And the demand is driven by the increased opportunities out there in North Dakota as well as other areas. But the demand is also driven by the last wave of engineers that came through in the 80s, okay, and many of those are retiring now. So there's a retiring workforce compounded with the global increase in the need for petroleum engineers.
Can you talk about UND's long history of excellence in the engineering department as well?
Yeah, UND has a long history of excellence in all engineering. In the major engineering, we're ABET accredited in all the engineering programs except for petroleum engineering. And we're working on the accreditation. We have to have graduates out in the industry, and we haven't had graduates. We'll have graduates this first year. But with respect to oil, we're working in oil and gas for many years. It goes all the way back to the 50s and 60s, where we did a lot of petroleum geology, and associated with the resources in North Dakota. And we also have the other engineering disciplines, the mechanical, chemical, electrical, civil, geological engineering that support the the industries in the state, and we have a long history of supporting the industry in the state as well as worldwide. And many of our graduates that are from UND are actually in the oil industry, and they're well connected to us and help us out.
Mm-hmm. Now, with this petroleum engineering degree, what kind of career opportunities are there? I assume there's certain specializations or subsets, but obviously good career opportunities, I would think, for this first batch of students coming out of petroleum engineering.
Yeah, our first batch of students, we have about 13 students that will graduate in 2013, 13 and 13, almost all of those have jobs already. The ones that are graduating in May, they all have jobs with oil companies in North Dakota and elsewhere. And the median salary for petroleum engineering right now nationwide is somewhere around $85,000 a year. So you can start with a bachelor's degree and make $85,000 a year, and that doesn't include some of the other incentives that come along with it from various companies.
I was reading, Dr. Benson, in the information you sent me that you can actually, some students can do this degree while living and working elsewhere. Is that part of it as well?
Yeah, we offer all of our engineering degrees at UND are offered by distance. And by distance, what we mean is that the students can take the class at the same time remotely through the internet, through tapping in right into our courses, and they can view the lectures online. They take the tests and the quizzes at about the same time as the other students, and the only time they have to come to the university is they need to do 2 intense laboratories. They need to come into to UND and do the different types of experiments that petroleum engineers do in the field, looking at the mud properties, or they might look at pressure temperature relationships and that sort of thing. But we try to make sure that we get them for 2 weeks during the summer and to complete those laboratories, give them that practical experience.
It seemed only maybe 8-10 years ago that the U.S. being energy and oil independent was a long shot. Now, it seems like it's getting closer. There's a lot of things going on. North Dakota is playing a huge role in this. Tell us about this and how close you think it's going to be in the next few years.
Well, I think the opportunities are with the new technology, with horizontal drilling, our ability to sense things in the earth, our ability to explore, and our ability to tap the unconventional resources in North Dakota and elsewhere has significantly enhanced our potential to produce oil as well as gas. So the ability to find the oil and then to go drill horizontally, and to be able to geosteer the bits through these formations and optimize that, as well as the hydraulic fracturing.
What is your view of what's going on in western North Dakota? Are things moving too fast, about the right pace? I know there's a lot of talk about fracking and whether it's safe or not. Tell us about those factors.
Okay, I think that if you look at what's happened, I think things are beginning to level off. I think that they are hopefully beginning to catch up on trying to meet the needs, I guess, with respect to the production and the drilling and all of that sort of thing. They have come to a point where they have the number of rigs that they're probably going to have out there, and the anticipation is drilling maybe something in the neighborhood of 2,000 wells a year, and this could go on for 20 years to fully exploit the Bakken and some of the other formations that they're trying to get the resources from.
How about fracking? There's a new movie out that kind of calls into question fracking. I believe it takes place in Pennsylvania. What are your thoughts on fracking? How does it work? Is it safe?
Yeah, it's safe, and I think the The oil industry is extremely careful to protect the groundwater at the surface. And if you think about how they do the drilling, they're very careful. They have the pipes, they cement the pipes in place. As they move down, they use fresh water for the water that they need for drilling in those, as they go through the freshwater zones. And then when they get through the freshwater zones, they make sure that that area is protected, and they're extremely careful on that. And then as they go deeper, then you get down to probably up to 16,000 feet, and that's much deeper than the first few hundred feet where the fresh water is. So you get down to the deeper water, and that's where you get into where the oil is. And that's where you do the fracking. So the fracking in North Dakota is done very deep, and it's done in the horizontal part of the drilling, and it is safe. They take all the precautions that are necessary to ensure that it's as safe as it can be.
North Dakota now is #2 nationally, correct, in oil
Right.
production. Amazing. It's an amazing turnaround in 5 years. I assume you go to conferences nationally, internationally, and people know about this, don't they?
Yeah, North Dakota is on the map. When you go to conferences and present a paper, there's a line of people actually, wanting to talk to you, and they're very interested in these formations. They're very interested in what the opportunity is, both for natural gas as well as the crude that we get out. And the crude from the Bakken is a very sweet, very nice crude for making gasoline. Okay, it is like some of the highest quality crude that you get. It's low sulfur. It's fantastic.
I know you worked at the Energy and Environmental Research Center in Grand Forks for years and years. We have done programs with them as well. Tell me about your work there and how they're involved in this as well with their research.
Okay, I worked at the Energy Environmental Research Center. I actually began there in 1977 as a chemist working in the laboratory, and I worked in a wide range of positions, from in the laboratory, research scientist, research supervisor, associate, and associate director for research. And my area was in conversion systems, so I would work in areas where we take a fuel resources and refine it and change it into something that can be utilized very efficiently and cleanly. It's a fantastic place to work, and while I worked there, my primary involvement with the oil industry was in the area of the refineries and how to utilize some of the streams like petroleum coke that were associated with the production of oil. EERC is continuing to do a lot of work in this area, in the CO2 sequestration, and they do a lot of work in gas to liquids and a wide range of other projects and programs for industry in North Dakota, as well as the state and internationally.
Talk about, I know you want to mention some of the funders and contributors who got this petroleum engineering program going. There's a lot of them, I know.
Yeah, some of the key groups that helped us get the petroleum engineering program going, Marathon, they were some of the people that came first to try to help us out. Whiting has also helped us. Hess, I don't want to forget anybody, but there's many of the other groups in North Dakota that have helped us get this program going, and they continue to help us, and they help us everything from providing us advice. We have a petroleum engineering advisory group that the industry participates on. This group gives us direction on what they need us to emphasize in our courses to make sure that we are exposing these students to the right types of material and they get the right types of training. We make sure that they understand the fundamentals as well as the practical applications of various types of petroleum engineering issues that they're going to deal with. So we want these students to understand petroleum geology. We want the students to work with the geologists, the engineers to work with the geologists to understand and try to search for the resources. We also want them to understand the formations so they know how to design the drilling. And then they also need to understand the formations with respect to how are they going to frack this formation, and then the completions and the transport and all the way to the point where we are refining the resources. And we make sure that the petroleum engineers have a good idea of the environmental issues that are associated with drilling, with production, with transport, and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. I know there's projects too involving CO2 sequestration. Tell folks about that and what exactly is that?
Okay. CO2 sequestration is, there's carbon dioxide is produced from combustion sources. Some of those sources are power plants. And what you do is you capture the CO2 from the power plants, and we're working on projects on that. And you take that CO2 and you put it up to pressure and you pump it down into formations in the earth, and those formations have cap rocks that or areas that will store that CO2. So the storage is one component of it. But in addition to that, you can use the CO2 for enhanced oil recovery. They're doing that in Canada and other places in the United States, where you inject the CO2 into oil-bearing formations, and that CO2 will push the oil out to a well, and you can get the oil and gas out. Some of the CO2 is recycled, some of it actually stays down there. But we're looking for ways to capture the CO2, but also we want to come up with ways to sequester, and also if there's a way to utilize the CO2 to benefit the oil production, we're looking at that as well.
I assume there's scholarships available for students?
Yeah, we have many different scholarships. Our website has scholarships from some of the major oil companies. Marathon is sponsoring several different scholarships. We also have scholarships from the Society of Petroleum Engineers. There's scholarships from the state of North Dakota, the Oil and Gas Division. There's many scholarships available for students, and the only thing that the students need to do is apply for them.
Tell us about the Wilson Laird Core and Sample Library, which I know is used.
Yeah, the Wilson Laird Core and Sample Library is located on the campus of the University of North Dakota. It's managed by the North Dakota Geological Survey, and it has 80% of the cores that have been drilled in the state of North Dakota, somewhere in that neighborhood, and they're available for industry to view and to analyze, as well as students can go in there and look at those. It's an excellent resource for our students, it's an excellent resource for our faculty, and it's an excellent resource for our industry partners.
Finally, if people want more information about petroleum engineering, the department at UND, where can they go? Website?
Yeah, they can go to the College of Engineering and Mines website, and then you'll find the tab for petroleum engineering, and you can find out what we're doing. And please contact us. You can do it both on-site and by distance.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Yep, thank you, Matt.
Dr. Steve Benson is the chair of the UND Petroleum Engineering Department. Stay tuned for more.
Conductor David Itkin's career has taken him to 44 states and 15 countries in Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. He regularly collaborates with artists such as Perlman, Salerno Sonnenberg, and Yo-Yo Ma. Recently, Itkin brought his talents to North Dakota as a finalist in the Fargo-Moorhead Symphony Orchestra's Conductor Search.
The power of great music is not what you know or what you think you should be educated in before you come into the concert hall. There is an intrinsic and fundamental power and change, spiritually changing force that is in great music, and you don't have to know anything to have it happen to you, and that's what happened to me, and it's what happens to people in concert halls every day. So my whole life and my whole focus of what it was I wanted to do in music was changed simply by going. I grew up in Portland, Oregon. My interest in the music that my life is involved in now really came in my teens through my grandmother. My grandmother started taking me to the symphony when I was 16. I think this is a great community with so many young people that want to be involved and seem to be really getting excited and motivated. Every time you hit 2 eighth notes, you're going to focus like a laser beam on the 2 eighth notes, that they're not going to lean forward. Okay? Let's see if we can do that. Here we go. And 1. We talked about the intersection between Handel, which is the piece they were playing, and rock and roll. Better. Oh yeah, better. Oh my goodness. Much better. Here we go. That might be a thought that they have not had, but it's a very important thought. The connectivity between Baroque music and rock and roll is actually quite close. Good, good, good. Good, good, good. I think it's very important to make that contact, and especially that contact which is purely musical. We do this program in Abilene for some concerts where there's a section of the audience where you bring your smartphone or your iPad and you're fed what is essentially a PowerPoint presentation all during the concert, exactly timed to the music. There's a different bit of information or visual image or something that directly pertains to the music you're hearing, keeps a generation of people who are device and visually addicted a bit more engaged. This organization and this orchestra are better known than the people in this community might be aware. This orchestra has a long and very successful history, both artistically and as an organization, having lasted a long time, having been solvent for a long time. The conductors that have been here, these are people of ability and substance, and they came and stayed and, obviously wanted to be there. That says a lot. A great part of making music and of many of my career decisions have to do with the people that I want to make music with. Working with soloists and working on the repertoire that they play is very different than the pure symphonic work experience. This is Ingbal Segev. We are old friends. We met 90 minutes ago. Okay. A lot of the decisions that I make about soloists that I work with have to do with relationships that are built up over long periods of time. Here we go. And a certain both personal and musical familiarity that comes with being able to get together on stage with a soloist that you've worked with many times, and music just starts to happen and flow because you get each other's musical ideas. To me, it's part of the glory of my job, is getting to have that experience as well as the pure symphonic experience. I think there's tons and tons of upward artistic potential here. I really do. You are 100% in charge of this concert. You are 100% in charge of the quality of this concert. There is no reason for anybody being paid to play to show up to the first rehearsal for anything less than able to play every single note in that part perfectly. Because once we do that, we can actually we actually have time to deal with the things that we should be dealing with in rehearsal that I can do with and for you. Can we stop for 1 second? The color change was nice. You got to be ready because I get no warning. I get an eighth note to prep and it's going to go bonk and we're going to be there, okay? Our job, 98% of our job is done in rehearsal. And if we didn't do it properly, there is no performance. There's no saving a performance that wasn't properly rehearsed. And learning how to rehearse effectively, thoroughly, in an organized way, in an inspiring way, is exactly what our job is. And that last bit at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night is the tip of the iceberg that you get to see.
The Fargo-Moorhead Symphony is searching for its next music director. This season, our Masterworks concerts will each be led by one of the 5 finalists. The decision of who will be the next artistic leader will involve valuable input from the orchestra musicians, audience members, symphony supporters, students, and members of the community, including you. The countdown begins. Who will be the Fargo-Moorhead Symphony's next conductor?
Well, that's all we have on Prairie Pulse for this week, and as always, thanks for watching.
Funded in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund, with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4th, 2008. North Dakota Council on the Arts, and by the members of Prairie Public.